Hello everyone. Today I'm going to walk you through the process of making this fantasy landscape. If you enjoy the video, I encourage you to like it, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell so that you'll be notified about my next video. I begin outlining the painting with pencil on a panel primed with white acrylic gesso. The subject is a tunnel opening onto a park which is illuminated by street lamps. Outside of the tunnel, I can sketch in the naturalistic features by hand. The interior of the tunnel requires a more mechanical approach, establishing a vanishing point and using a ruler and a French curve. I'm now moving on to the underpainting, which I'm doing in acrylic paint. This particular type of underpainting is called an ébauche. Ébauche is a French term meaning first pass or draft. This type of underpainting is distinct from others because instead of using black and white or brown, it's done with color, although generally it's a lower saturation than the final product. In this case, I'm actually using a higher saturation, which I'll tone down as I paint. Now moving on to the oil painting stage, I'm going to begin with the walls of the tunnel. And I'm using an unextended mechanical pencil to scrape away the lines between the rows of brick. This particular shadow is very important to me because it's the blackest black in the painting, and it will provide a contrast to all of the other shadow tones inside the tunnel. Now moving to the outside of the tunnel, I'm painting the path leading into the distance. As you can see, I'm using a relatively large brush for this. This is about a 3/4 inch flat. I'm now moving into the greenery of the landscape. A lot of this in the background can be painted very broadly and loosely because it's extending into the blackness of night. This section here, though, is directly under the street lamp and requires more detail. I'm now painting the rows of bricks along the walls of the tunnel, and as a mechanical aid, I'm going to use clear office tape, magic tape. I've always considered this a very valuable tool when painting architectural features, because it's difficult to paint straight lines with oil paint. You can't necessarily always just use a ruler. If the ruler slips, you can spread the paint to places you don't want it, not to mention the fact that there might already be wet oil paint on the surface that you don't want to place a ruler on top of. Magic tape is very valuable here because once you lay it down, you can burnish its edge so that the oil paint can't slip down underneath the edge of it. And once you've laid down your paint, you can just peel it away and you have this incredibly pristine straight line. Painting the inside of this tunnel is a difficult problem because I want a considerable amount of detail, but I want it all to be in shadow. So I simultaneously want there to be a lot of detail, but I want it to be difficult to see. And so I'm taking the approach of lowering the saturation as I work, but even at this point in the painting, it's not as dark as it's going to be at the end. Because if I get too dark, I'm not going to be able to tell what I'm doing. And now moving outside of the tunnel, I want there to be a fair amount of naturalistic detail because I want the illusion of the painting to be convincing, but I don't want to venture into photorealistic detail because I think it'll destroy the magic of the fantasy. I want the world outside the tunnel to seem like another dimension, a world where miracles transpire. Okay, now moving on to the two figures, the woman and the unicorn. These don't need to be very detailed, it's just a rough sketch that I'm going to turn into a stencil. So I'm drawing these in on paper, and then I've cut them out to create stencils, and I can just block in the black figures. The woman is inside the tunnel, so she's just a pure silhouette. The horse, however, is outside, and there's a considerable amount of raking light from that street lamp. So once I have those highlights in, I can remove the stencil and refine those highlights by hand. Having placed these figures in, I'm very happy with them. They're achieving just exactly the effect that I wanted. The woman in shadow is like a lonely ghost wandering in the night. The dark tunnel is this hard, concrete reality. Outside the tunnel, the unicorn appears, as does that brilliant green glowing light, and it provides this kind of hope, this promise of another world, which is only a few feet away from her. Okay, now I'm painting in the final layer of paint in the tunnel, and this is bringing it to the level of shadow that I want. So all of those details that I've painted so far are still going to read, they're just going to be a lot darker. This is a transparent black mixed with transparent marble white and a lot of linseed oil. I just want everything to read as black and dark as possible. And then finally I'm going to oil out these figures just by applying extra linseed oil to the surface to increase their gloss. And that will complete the illusion of the shadow of the tunnel. So this painting might not be completely done yet. I might still need to put some finishing touches on it, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. My goal was to create a contrast between a naturalistic depiction of reality and a more fantastical one, where fantasy represents the saving grace of imagination in an otherwise mundane existence. If you'd like to see the finished painting, it is going to be in a show in June of 2023 in Minneapolis at Art Space Jackson Flats. This is a group show called the Unicorn Art Show, and it has two opening nights, Friday, June 9th and Saturday, June 10th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then the gallery is going to be open through June on the 11th, the 17th, the 18th, the 24th, and the 25th from 12 to 5 p.m. If you're in the Minneapolis area in June, I would love for you to come and see it. And I would like to thank you for watching this video. As always, it is a great pleasure to share my painting process with you, and I encourage you to like and comment below. Your comments are very appreciated, and they always generate a very interesting discussion.